Hey everybody, this is Ben. It's just a little bit after 9:30 and I'm out going for a walk real quick. I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of what the theoretical perfect business would look like if it existed. So back in the 1950s, there was this guy named Richard Russell who started putting out an investment newsletter. He passed away just last year. He wrote the Dow Theory Letters, which became wildly famous during the 1960s because he was making a lot of great predictions when it came to the bull market during that period of time. But his most famous piece of writing, most quoted piece, is a piece called The Perfect Business, which was released for the first time in the early 1970s. And in that quick essay, he goes through 12 points of what the perfect business looks like and where he got the idea. So here's what happened. He was talking to a corporate attorney, and this attorney was in a position because of business where he saw all kinds of different businesses. And Richard asked him, what's the best business that you've ever seen? And the attorney gave him an example of a very specific chemical compound that was used at the time to create rubber. And Richard found that really interesting. And so he put together the following points. So here they are, the 12 points, Richard Russell's 12 points of the perfect business. First point, whatever the perfect business does or creates, it has to have the entire world as a market. It has to sell to the world, an endless amount of demand. Second point, the demand for that product has to be relatively inelastic. Elasticity refers to the amount of demand and the change that's created in that demand when another event occurs. So products that have low elastic demand or are inelastic are things like coffee. Many households drink coffee, therefore they would probably purchase coffee regardless of the price. Another example for many decades has been oil. Most of our machinery operates on oil, therefore oil has inelastic demand. Makes sense, right? Third thing, the product can have no clear substitutes. Substitution refers to the ability of one product to be replaced by another. There's really very few products that don't have substitutes in the world, but one is drinking water, for instance. We don't have tons and tons of drinking water. Drinking water is one of the products that has no substitute. Also, if you want to, I'm going to have a Mr. Rogers moment for a second. Something without a clear substitute is you as an individual. Individuals are one of a kind. That makes you relatively priceless. There's no clear substitute for you. Fourth point, the business must require minimal labor output. This is for obvious reasons. You don't want to go into a business where everything is dependent on a large amount of time or energy going into it. Number 5, the business must have low overhead. Overhead refers to the cost of doing business. Just to give you a quick example of some businesses that have extremely low overhead, CPAs and accountancies have a gross margin above 20% in most cases. A business that has really high overhead and really poor gross margin return is a business like a community care center, believe it or not, like a nursing home facility. Their margins are extremely small, if not negative, prior to other things coming in like government subsidies. Number 6, the business must not require large cash outlays. So businesses that require a lot of cash are businesses like ranching and farming operations, construction operations where heavy machinery is involved, anything that requires a huge sum of money up front to get something done. Oil rigs are another example. Number 7, the business must generate cash billings rather than terms of credit. So Richard's thoughts here were, if you're running, let's say you're running a major manufacturing facility, first of all, high capitalization, takes you a lot of labor, a lot of time to produce something. And then when you sell it, most of the people that you sell to who are going to turn around and sell your product again require credit terms from you in order to do so. So Richard's concept here was you want to engage in a business that operates mostly on the basis of cash. Number 8, the business has to be free of government and local regulation or have very limited government involvement. So a business that would not fall into this category would be something like arms manufacturing, or here in Colorado, marijuana. Very highly regulated, lots of government involved. All right, so point number 8 was free of regulation. Sorry, I lost the recording there for a second. Point number 9, the business has to be portable, movable, and non-specific in regard to its geography. Meaning that if you're running a business, you can get up and go anywhere. A lot of businesses start out like this, like attorneys' offices, for instance. But over time, they develop a base of clientele which requires them to be geographically confined to the location of where their book of business is located. It's pretty basic stuff. All right, number 10. Business has to satisfy your intellectual and emotional needs. There's lots of businesses out there that you can do to make money, but the number of them that will actually allow you to do something that you feel is meaningful and purposeful is much more limited. So that's number 10, satisfy your intellectual and emotional needs. Number 11, perhaps the most important of all of them, is that the business must allow you to have free time. It needs to give you freedom of movement, flexibility of schedule, and the ability to do what you want when you want. If you can find a business that gives you free time, you're in the clear. Now, when Richard Russell first wrote this, he was thinking specifically of businesses that required less than a 10-hour workday. But we live in a time in which the workday can be much, much shorter. All he was pointing out is that the perfect business will not require a huge amount of your personal time. Finally, number 12, the business has to allow you to generate revenue that is not specific on your personal output. A great example of this is something like, be something like a doctor's office, where a doctor, in order to generate revenue, typically has to be on site, has to see patients back to back throughout the course of the day. The business is dependent on the doctor's presence in order to generate revenue. So the perfect business would therefore be something that did not require your direct input or your direct labor on a consistent basis. So there they are. Those are Richard Russell's 12 points of the perfect business. I hope as you consider what businesses you might want to look into in the future, that you consider this list. It might guide you in a better direction for either your personal career or as you engage in entrepreneurship, where to begin. My best. We'll see you on the beaches of the world.